So before we get started, I just want to stress that this video is a simplified version on how to tear down a GSXR 600 motor or 750 from 06 through 09 and possibly the newer 600s and 750s because they are similar. I don't use any special tools other than what's shown in the video, and this video will only go up into me getting the motor split in search of a rod knock. So I won't remove the transmission, but that will be one of the few things that is not taken apart in this video. This is for all the DIYers and for those who search trying to find the video on this year model on YouTube, and there is not one. So I hope this video helps. If you need to know anything more specific than what's shown in this video, feel free to comment and I will let you know. Here we go. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. We got a 07 GSXR 600 motor here. Came in a bike I had got a while back. It has about 40,000 miles on it. When I got the bike, the first thing that was wrong with it is that it had oil coolant contamination. So I knew there was a breach somewhere in the coolant system. Turned out to be that three of the freeze plugs had popped. But I had fixed the freeze plug issue. But when I finally got this thing started, it had a terrible noise coming from it. It was knocking real bad. You can still see some of the coolant mix right there. Pretty sure it's some. There goes some down there. Pretty sure it's a little bit left in the oil filter. But yeah, motor was knocking. Also had a rattling noise, which I found was someone had put the stator in wrong and one of the bolts was hanging out and it was just chopping up the stator cover inside of there. But looks like we about to tear this motor apart. You can see it's a lot of stuff already taken off of it. Most of the stuff taken off is stuff that I'm sure y'all don't need a video to see how it comes off or whatever. Got the oil cooler, just 4 bolts, couple hoses. Got the air breather. Got the plugs, got the cam chain tensioner already out. There's no plates in this clutch either, because I had to take the clutch out of this one to put into the motor that I replaced this with. But we still got the magneto starter flywheel, the water pumps out, but still a lot of good stuff in here that needs to be tore down. So this video is gonna be a tear down of a 07 GSXR 600 motor. I did a lot of looking and couldn't necessarily find too many videos that completely tear the motor down. There is one good video series, but I think it's a 04 GSXR motor. A little bit different, kind of the same. But we're gonna tear this thing down and we're gonna see what we see. Let's go. Alright, so we got a couple tools right here. Got a 3/8 ratchet with a 6-inch extension. We got a 5mm Allen 6. We got an 8mm. We got a 10. We got a 14. We got a 12 right here. Got a 5 Allen key. Got the impact with an 8 on it. And we have an adapter for when we get to using these. Don't want to always turn by hand or whatever. It's got a couple breaker bars Now I did start messing with this motor, so some of the screws, like the head or whatever, aren't all the way as tight as they would be, but we still gonna go over it. I put them back in just so I can make this video and we can go over how to take it out. Plugs are already out, sitting over there. Like I say, it's a couple things already off: stator cover, clutch cover, ground wire, water pump, all that good stuff. So here we go. First thing you're gonna need is your 5mm to get these 6 bolts off. Some people might say take them off in a certain pattern, but it really doesn't matter. So we start off by taking these off. And this is gonna be the 6mm Allen. There's some little washers that come on them. Make sure you get those off. See, like this one stayed in there. Take those off. There's no specific order for these screws, so one doesn't have to be in a certain place. These are gonna take a 8mm, and what you want to do is start with number 1. And if you notice, some of these have how that one has number 1, and then right next to it, it has number 21. You will do some of these, like these two, twice, and these you will do twice, but you still go in order of the number. So you start at 1 and you end at 26, and then once you finish 26, you start back at 1 and get back to 26, and you do that until all bolts are loose. And you'll slowly see the cams coming up, because the cams are spring loaded by the valves. And if you do this sequence out of order, or you do too much in an area, these cams are real brittle and you could possibly break it, snap it, bend it, warp it. So take your time. Like I say, you could do a turn or two on each bolt and just follow the order. Here we go. Alright, we now got the cam caps off. What you could do is you can take this one off, set it to the side. I like to set stuff in order so it's all set. You might just want to wiggle these out a little bit. Get it out. Wiggle this one out. Get it out. Now, if you were doing a valve job, you would have checked your shim clearance with the feeler gauge, marked it down, seen what was off, took it out, changed the shims, put the caps back on, get your tensioner back in, and then you would check them again and make sure you got the right clearance. Might have to do that a couple times. But we're going far past valve clearance. What you could do is just move your cam chain, get your intake cam out. Gonna set that right there. Get your exhaust cam out. Set that right here. Now at this point in time, it don't matter where your chain goes, because you'll have to find top dead center and all that stuff again once you reassemble it. But now you can see there's two 5mm Allen bolts, and then there's 10 cylinder head bolts. You want to start off by getting these two off right here, and you can take them completely off. It's just a 5mm. So we'll start by doing that. Then you get to the 10 cylinder head bolts, and the service manual is going to recommend that you start from the outside in a crisscross pattern and work your way in to get these bolts off. That's a 12mm socket. So when you initially do it, like I said, I had this head off already, so I didn't put the bolts back in to the recommended torque. But you might need a cheetah bar because these things are in there pretty good. So we're gonna start in a crisscross pattern. Gonna start here, go 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 here. Then we're gonna knock these two out. Alright, so we got all the bolts out. Well, they're in, but we got them all loosened. Now, when you first get these bolts off, you're gonna have to tap this cylinder head a couple times with a rubber mallet to knock it loose from the head gasket. So mine is already a little loose because I already had the head off. But what you would just do is just tap a couple times right there, tap a couple times right there until you see the head start rocking. And from then you can go ahead and rock your cylinder head off. can see that this motor is not in the best looking condition. Seems like this one was doing a little bit of dirty firing right here. Like I say, the motor did have 40K. It was knocking. You can see the remnants of the head gasket adhesive right here. Don't worry about that. Within this teardown process, you'll be cleaning all this stuff up, measuring it, inspecting it, doing all that good stuff. So now that we got the cylinder head out, go ahead and set this over here. One thing you definitely want to do is pay attention to where the bolts go. Try to leave them in the space that they're already in. And beware of washers and gaskets, because there will be some in small places throughout this teardown, especially when we get to the lower half. You can see we at top dead center, but that won't matter once we tear it down. So now I'm gonna move on to taking this friction plate off. Now I know I didn't say it in the beginning, but common sense will tell you guys to make sure you have all your oil drain. Now there will be a little bit hiding around various little spots or whatever, but make sure you have your oil drain. I still got the filter on, but won't be much in there. Be tearing it down to clean it up. You see I got it on this big cardboard box because this process will get messy. So make sure you got something to catch all the oil and dirt and grime that's gonna come out. We're gonna get this clutch friction plate out first. Like I said, there's no clutch plates in here. I had to use those on the other bike. There's no push rod. All that stuff had to be used on the other bike. But just take 10mm, get these 6 bolts out. There is a spring behind it, so be careful. So you're gonna have a washer, you're gonna have a little bearing in there. Make sure you get those out of there. At this point, if you do have clutch plates in, what you want to do is get 2 small picks and pick the plates out, metals and fibers. Just try your best to keep them in order so that you can just throw them back in the exact same way they came out. Now behind the last plates are going to be a flat washer and an anti-jugger washer. You can either leave them in the basket or take them out and make sure you note how they're in so that you can put it back together the correct way. What I like to do is put everything back in the general area where it goes, just to make life easier. Set that over here. Now what you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to get ready to get this basket out of here. Alright, next is to be wanting to get that clutch nut off. I don't know if y'all can see, but there's usually a little crimp that you crimp the nut to the spline. You would just use a screwdriver and a hammer to uncrimp it. This one's already off, but you just get a screwdriver and you hammer that crimp out. And some people will use a clutch holding tool or a sheave holder to hold the inner basket so they can get the nut off, but we're gonna hit it with an air impact and get it off of there without needing that tool. All right, the nut to get that off is a size 30 socket. So we're gonna throw this thing on the impact and see if it'll come off. All right, so trying to pull the basket out. I don't know if you can see in here that the crankshaft is up on cylinder 1 and 4. So you're gonna have to turn the motor to get that crankshaft out the way so it can slide out. Just gotta turn the motor, get that crankshaft out the way. I got my buddy holding the cam chain. You can see, I don't know if you can see it in there, but the crank is turning. And you'll see the space where it gets out the way right there. Now the basket should just pull out. All right, got the clutch basket out. Make sure this bearing sleeve comes out. And got another sleeve right here that sits on the shaft. I want to get that out. But we do need to get this shift mechanism, this gear mechanism off. And we need to get the cam chain guides out of there. That's gonna be a 6mm. This is gonna be a 10 and a couple Phillips back there that'll get that loose. And there's a spring down there that's on that 10. Try to keep all that intact so it don't go flying everywhere. But yeah, we finna get that off so we can get ready to flip this motor. So let's get this off. All right, got the 6mm, about to get these cam guides out of here. And I think this one has a washer behind it. Make sure that if it does, you keep that washer, because this one is the moving one. No washer. Cool. All right. We can inspect the guides and all that stuff later. Oh yeah. It's pretty much out of there. Get the static guide out of here. Now you can get that cam chain out. Last thing is to get the gear mechanism out. First things first is we need to get this Serpin E-clip, whatever you want to call it. Need to get that off of this shaft and remove this washer. So that's what we're about to do. The tool you're gonna need is this thing right here with the, they come with different tips. You want the one with the sticking out. Let's see if I can get that shot. And you just pull it off. Might have to try a couple times. It could be a little tricky. So you got that off. Make sure you put that in a good spot. Get the washer off. And that's all we need on this side. Now we can go to the gear mechanism and get that off. All right, so on the gear mechanism, what you want to do first is pull this out, and the whole shaft from the shifter should just come out with it. You might have to wiggle it because these little pins are kind of holding it. But you just want to get that out of there. Pull that out. Set that to the side. All right, what we're gonna go ahead and do is start getting these upper crankcase bolts taken out. You got the 6mm, then you have, well, you have the 8mm, then you have the 12mm. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You got one over here, that's 7. Then you got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. About to take those out, and then we'll flip it over and get to the oil pan. Alright, now we're getting the 12mm bolts out. Should be 5 of them. We already loosened them. You might need a breaker bar to get them loose because they are in there tight. Now we got all the bolts loose. The manual will tell you to keep these bolts in a cardboard template cutout so you can know where to put them in the right spot. And also notice that there's copper washers behind the bigger bolts. You don't want to lose those. All right, now that we got all those bolts out, we got them marked to where we know where they go. All these are the same. These two are the same. These two are the same. These two are the same. This is the same as these. And this one's a medium one. So it's longer than these, but shorter than these. Now we finna flip this motor and attack the bottom side bolts. All right, now that we got the motor upside down, you're gonna see there's a few more bolts on this side. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 5, 6. We're gonna take the oil filter off. We got 7, 8, 9, 10. And that's crankcase bolts, not including the oil pan. And we're gonna do that last. So looks like we'll need a 6mm Allen and the same 8 and 14 that we use on the other ones. Let's get these bolts off. That was pretty easy. It's only 1/8.
Look like
Alright. Nope, it's another one. We got all the top crankcase bolts out. Make sure you keep them in order. They all different sizes. Some have washers, some don't. Now we're gonna attack this oil pan, which y'all should know is all these 8mm screws right here. And this little plate holds the oil pan to the motor casing. So you wanna get those 4 and all the oil pan bolts off. Now, if the oil pan hasn't been off in a minute, you might need to tap it with a rubber mallet to rock it off the gasket. This one looks pretty loose, so we're gonna get it up out of here. It's the sump, you could just pull. Note the position of that oil sump for reassembly. All right, just gonna stick a screwdriver down in here and use a ratchet and wrench to get that 10mm off. Now that we got the oil pump sprocket and chain off, we can now remove the oil pump, which is going to be these four 8mm bolts. All these bolts are the same size. Now, should be able to rock the oil pump out of here. And then gotta be careful because there's a little rubber gasket in that hole right there. Make sure to either take that rubber gasket off or make sure it doesn't fall off and it stays in there. All right, we about to get these last crankcase bolts out, and we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Don't worry if you already took these two and these two out. Now that those bolts are loose, you could just do a quick check. Make sure you got all the bolts out on the upper and on the lower side. Make sure all these are loose. And then from there, we can go ahead and give this case a couple taps and get it split apart.
It's gone forever.
I'm gonna just fake it. That shit is split. This motor originally had a knock to it, and just by shaking that rod right there, that's more than likely where our knock came from. Spun rod bearing. None of the other ones do that. Yep. So that might be the problem right there. Seem like this rod is spun too. Yep. So it looked like we got two spun rods. That's gonna be cylinder 1. Oh, look, it just fell out. Cylinder 1 and cylinder 3. Damn, Richard now. Oh, sorry, y'all. Damn, it's actually running right now. Let's go to it. This right here is your knock.